How sublime to look down on the workhouse of nature, to see her clouds, rain, hail, thunder, and snow, all fabricated at our feet. Thomas Jefferson, 1786.
More than 200 years ago, President Thomas Jefferson commissioned a bold and adventurous undertaking, a Corps of Discovery that would journey to the farthest reaches of a new nation. We know this as the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Through the journals of Lewis and Clark, we see glimpses of a pristine landscape that spanned the continent. This land's natural resources, once thought by Lewis and Clark to be limitless, served us well as our nation grew. They provided the building blocks of an agricultural and industrial society. But that society experienced many growing pains, socially, culturally, and environmentally. All along the Lewis and Clark Trail, as well as throughout the farthest reaches of our country, once pristine landscape became dotted with dumps, our air choked with soot and grit, and our rivers polluted. In 1970, the United States Environmental Protection Agency was born, with a mission to protect human health and to safeguard our natural environment, the air, the water, and the land upon which all life depends. EPA is responsible for making sure that the nation's environment is adequately protected. To protect our environment and solve complex environmental problems, EPA works with partners in states, tribes, industries, public interest groups, and universities. The agency's work is based on the best available science and is accomplished through outreach, enforcement, and information sharing. In carrying out its mission, EPA's focus always returns to the very elements that Lewis and Clark studied as they journeyed west 200 years ago.
The air is so pure that mountains and other elevated objects appear much nearer than they really are. Meriwether Lewis, May 30th, 1805.
The dawn of our industrial age polluted the air with tiny chemicals and particles. As the United States grew as a nation, pollution became worse. In 1970, Congress passed the Clean Air Act, setting national air quality, automobile emissions, and anti-pollution standards, thus entrusting EPA with enforcing those standards and managing programs for clearing the air. That trust was well placed. Dramatic reductions of carbon monoxide, particulate matter, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and lead in the air we breathe have been measured. EPA has worked with the state and local partners to inform the public about ozone alert days and encourage citizens to cut down on activities that contribute to the problem. EPA has established emission standards for toxic chemicals or pollutants known to cause health problems, but not all air problems occur outdoors. Many people spend 90% of their time indoors, so EPA also addresses indoor air problems such as radon, asbestos, and mold. To make sure our air is safe to breathe, EPA is continuing to work on new challenges posed by ozone, air toxics, and other emerging air issues.
The waters of the Kansas had a very disagreeable taste. The water of the South Fork is of a reddish-brown color, the other river of a whitish color. William Clark, June 26, 1804, June 8, 1805.
The Ohio, Mississippi, Missouri, and Columbia rivers made it possible for Lewis and Clark to reach the Pacific Ocean. These great rivers were also responsible for the growth of small trading outposts into towns and eventually into bustling cities. But our water quality too suffered with the growth of our nation. Untreated sewage, dangerous chemicals, and destruction of wetlands all degraded the water we depend on for drinking, fishing, recreation, and life. We rose to the challenge when Congress adopted the Clean Water Act in 1972. EPA, with help from local, state, and federal partners, has improved the number of fishable and swimmable waters by more than a third over the last 3 decades. Annual wetland losses have been cut by 80%, and the soil eroding into our waterways has been reduced by half. Most Americans now also enjoy drinking water that meets strict health standards. Clean rivers and safe drinking water, however, come with a price tag. The Clean Water Act and Safe Drinking Water Act allow EPA to give grants and other funding to states, tribes, local governments, and nonprofit organizations. This money is used to build water treatment facilities, support state and local water pollution control programs, and solve local water quality problems. Many additional challenges to clean water loom on the horizon, including aging treatment facilities, modern agricultural practices, and special threats to the health of sensitive populations. EPA will continue to emphasize watershed protection, drawing on the creativity, commitment, and cooperation of our federal, state, and tribal partners.
The country on each side of the river is finely interspersed with prairies in which immense herds of deer is seen. On the banks of the river we observe numbers of deer watering and feeding on the young willows. William Clark, June 24, 1804.
When Lewis and Clark first traveled the continent, white-tailed deer were abundant, and they are again today. But our land has drastically changed in the 200 years since Lewis and Clark made the journey. America has produced oil and natural gas, mined minerals, cultivated fields, harvested timber, and built structures for our ever-expanding nation all across the areas once roamed by Lewis and Clark. Today's sophisticated technologies produce consumer goods ranging from chemicals to cars, from concrete to computers. Past and present activities have generated huge volumes of waste and sometimes contaminated the land. EPA's pollution prevention and recycling efforts have helped dramatically reduce hazardous waste. Nationwide recycling and waste reduction efforts keep more than 62 million tons of trash out of our landfills every year, roughly 1,100 pounds for each household in America. Many abandoned hazardous waste sites have been cleaned up through the Superfund program, created by Congress in 1980. EPA's underground storage tank program encourages states to identify and remove tanks that might be leaking contaminants into our soil and groundwater. The Resource Conservation and Recovery Act lets EPA work with industries and businesses to prevent contamination and clean it up when it does occur. Other EPA programs keep our land safe by regulating pesticides and tracking hazardous chemicals in our communities. We can expect new challenges and solutions in the coming years, including homeland and food security, new treatment technologies, and reduced use of toxic materials. Lewis and Clark's extraordinary journey ended in the fall of 1806 when they returned to St. Louis. Few gave them much chance of success, but their expedition proved to be one of the most remarkable chapters in our nation's history. At the heart of their journey was a passion for challenge and duty, a spirit that is mirrored to this day throughout the United States and especially here at EPA. As we turn our eye toward the future, EPA will lead the discovery of scientific and technological solutions to complicated environmental problems. These solutions will require the agency to work closely with our partners to overcome challenges and champion innovative ideas, all the while focusing on improving public health and the environment. Our hope is that 200 years from now, EPA will again proudly join others in celebrating the Corp of Discovery in a nation of cleaner air, purer water, and better protected land for everyone.
All appear to have made up their minds to succeed in the expedition or perish in the attempt. We all believe that we are about to enter the most perilous and difficult part of our voyage, yet I see no one repining. All appear ready to meet those difficulties which await us with resolution and fortitude. William Clark, June 1805.
Make a noise on the ground, the way the Louisiana.
got the tails.
All the way, keep her up and don't you make a noise on the ground away to Louisiana.
Got the tails.